We're live.
We are live. Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Nadelko.
I'm Sachita.
Producer Matt.
Welcome to episode,
114.
114 of Live at the Hive.
Yep.
We're now approaching Joe Rogan style numbers.
Yes.
Happy
Slowly
to say.
but surely we'll get there.
It took him like 14 years. So,
Oh, yeah.
it is what it is. There we go. It's all right.
It's all good.
So today we are going to kick off with what's new because we skipped it last week.
Yeah, we got, this episode's going to be part 2 of the presentation that Dan was kind of walking us through last week. It seems like a lot of people were interested in it. We got a lot of engagement, which is great. But yeah, we did forget to do the what's new articles. But
We didn't forget. We strategically knew we weren't going to do them.
Yeah, we didn't have enough time. There was no way we were going to have enough time. So
yeah. So we will be following up with the flywheel versus the funnel at the end.
Yep.
But why don't we just get started in what's new?
Cool. Alrighty. So the first article that we're going to be talking about this week is there's nearly a 70% decline in always on location data since iOS 13 has been released. Now, at first glance, a lot of people might not kind of anticipate this affecting their marketing efforts, but like you and I were discussing before this, Dan, we see this more as like a catalyst of what's to come. People are going to be starting to crack down on kind of remarketing tools, things like that, especially with iOS OS software, right? So yeah, I think that this is just kind of like a preview to come. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's what's going to happen to Google is we'll see a reduction in things like advanced targeting and remarketing and similar audience matching. Yep. The screws are going to tighten down on this kind of thing. And background location data has always been a bit of a sore spot for privacy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, Sachita, if you want someone tracking your exact location in an app wherever you are at any time.
Yeah.
Right? So from a marketer's perspective, people see it as being very invasive. The only time it becomes useful is for something like Find My Phone.
Yep.
For if you're on an iOS device, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Android has a similar function as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think this is just going to be what happens in the market. We're going to start to see less of that pinpoint accurate data that people aren't actually aware of.
Yep.
Which I think is in a sense good.
It's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, I don't want someone tracking me everywhere I go. There's certain apps that I have it on for. So like you said, like Find My Phone, like Pokemon Go, I have that on as well.
Well, you gotta catch them all.
Yeah, I gotta catch them all. But I think this will be better for everyone. But
and don't get that confused if you're in marketing with things like Google Maps and Waze advertising. That's not always on. I mean, that the user is active within the app at that time. So location data can be targeted. Like Waze is a good example. You'll see Tim Hortons ads and auto dealership ads when you're nearby some of those local things.
Yep.
So definitely something to be aware of. And next up.
Cool. Next up, this is actually a pretty big one. So Pinterest has finally surpassed Snapchat as the number 3 social media app in the U.S. And it's set to stay ahead of Snapchat for a while at least. So in 2019, it surpassed Pinterest by 82.4 million users. And they have kind of like a little graph here to kind of show the percent change. This also relates to, I mean, we keep talking about how Pinterest is more of kind of like a silent giant. You know what I mean? A lot of people kind of brush it off. A lot of people don't really think about it as one of the top platforms that you should be using to reach your audiences. But in reality, it can be quite successful.
100%. I mean, it's interesting because Pinterest is also viewed as being the positive social network. It doesn't have a lot of the issues that Facebook has and some of the others, and Twitter especially, for being kind of a negative environment. It really does have a different kind of angle and take. So I think that that type of adoption makes it really popular for people. And again, kind of the sleeping giant, right? Like Snapchat comes out of nowhere. But Pinterest is always kind of running in the background.
For sure.
And I know one of the things we've talked about, right, Sachita, in 2020 is is advertising on Pinterest and promoted pins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
100%.
They have this cool little graph here as well, kind of showing the distinct difference between age demographic with each platform. So in here, you can see the red of Snapchat users and the black are the Pinterest users. It's
Yes.
interesting to see that, like, the demographic spread on this, right, Sashita?
Yeah. So Pinterest has been quite constant in all the age groups, while Snapchat is a bit fluctuating between 12 to 24 age groups. So I think that's the reason why Pinterest is coming up in the list.
For sure.
And this has a lot to do with your background in market research and
Yeah.
right? Would you use to conduct this kind of?
Yeah, we used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Very cool.
Cool, right on.
Very cool.
Alrighty, I think we're going to be moving on now to the next one. Now, this one also, why don't Sashita after this one, we kind of go into the article that you pulled out for this week, just because it's a nice segue into it. So TikTok is finally developing a feed of curated content, and it's going to be similar to kind of Snapchat's Discover Stream. They're doing this in an effort to kind of obviously curate their content, but at the same time, I think that it's kind of naturalizing the audience that is using TikTok. A lot of the audience is the same demographic as Snapchat, right? So I think there's a more of kind of like a fluid experience throughout this. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to like this. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'll be cool. But Sashita does have an article here for 3 tips for brands looking to utilize TikTok for marketing as well. So
Yes,
that's why I
so-
kind of wanted to segue into that.
So the first tip, I think it is be yourself and have fun with the platform. So so talking about TikTok, I guess everybody is an influencer on TikTok to some degree. So we should use that as our potential and try to create as much as good content. So because it's not like Instagram where you're judged depending on how many followers are there on your account, but for TikTok, I guess everybody is an influencer there. So it's all about creating the quality content and getting to the right audiences.
100%. I mean, I think one of the things that's important, and Sashita just highlighted that, is that, and we talked about this last week, and we can actually throw it up when we get to that part talking about the flywheel because it's part of the same presentation. TikTok is such a new social network that you are able to get into the organic feed with very little effort if you have that potential for organic virality, which can turn you from a very small content creator, get you right into the feed, and you see examples on TikTok right now of people that even have, maybe 4,000, 5,000 followers, and their views are in the millions.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yep.
So a couple of cool things about TikTok that they did was they also disjoined the number of followers you've got versus the number of views you have at like an atomic level, right? So you get into that organic feed and off you go. If that takes off, you can take off,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's kind of the point, and that has a lot to do with the maturity of the platform and the fact that TikTok wants you to do that.
One key thing that I've saw this week with TikTok or earlier, I think last week, was musicians using TikTok to push their content that weren't necessarily making the content themselves. So, for example, if you're a local band or you're a local musician, uploading your tracks onto TikTok so that other influencers can use your track to make content with is a great strategy that I saw work within TikTok as well recently. And they've done this strategically through launching the LP, things like that. Getting some of their friends or some of the content creators that they know that have a strong TikTok following use their songs in order to create content as well. So I think there's a really great opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Sashita also highlighted this. And Matt, I'm going to throw a comment into Basecamp here. I think one of the perceptions of TikTok is like, oh, this is for kids and this isn't for brands. Further from the truth. I just shot. It's a little bit older now. It's from November.
Yep.
But it's actually still trending. The Home Depot went viral on TikTok through no effort of Home Depot's themselves. And brands would die for this kind of virality, where the Home Depot theme song became a meme and went viral on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you've got a brand that may not seem like it fits, I mean, effectively, TikTok is Musical.ly, which is a karaoke social network. That's really what it was. Then they kind of went with the shorter video and adding some fun kind of things, and it's it's very much like Vine. It's very like it's here and it's gone, and it's here and it's gone.
Yeah.
But brands can get really creative in these formats, and people really, really are attracted to them.
Absolutely.
And you can gain a huge following from that. So lesson is don't dismiss TikTok because you are an insurance company or because you are a retailer that you think it doesn't go to these other demographics. Mm-hmm. One really popular, another TikTok example is in, I believe, Brampton.
Yep.
There's a constable in Brampton that is really popular for doing his karaoke videos.
Yep.
And from the police services side of things, it's exactly what they call winning hearts and minds for community policing.
It's a great PR piece too, right?
100%. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic PR piece. And that's kind of the point is like you could find things in TikTok that are not obvious from a typical brand perspective that can really give you a chance and opportunity to get in front of a new audience. And that Home Depot one is a really excellent example of that.
For sure. Miguel has a comment in here. He says that some content creators are complaining about their non-music tracks like Vines being used to promote other online personalities. Do you think this will be an issue as it gets bigger?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
I mean, you're going to get into copyright and everything, right?
Yeah, it might be YouTube all over again, to be honest. But I think right now, like if people are putting their songs onto TikTok as an option to use, I think that it kind of falls under the fair use where the artist is putting their song that other people can use to make content. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, if the song's not officially on there, I think you kind of dive into some kind of shady stuff, right? So.
Well, yeah, and I think this is always about fair use, right? I don't think that it's something that you can get away from in terms of, you can't just go and take a song and throw it on there. You do have to use the platform as it's being used.
Yep.
But I think what's going to happen is, and in a lot of ways, this is kind of what, like where it's all going is these platforms are going to strive for getting proper use of the right types of songs.
Yep.
And if the big players, what's going to happen is if the big players resist it, there's going to be a new way for new artists to become huge because of TikTok, right? So it's kind of a, years ago, I spoke at North by Northeast on a panel called To Stream or Not to Stream for Musicians. And then when I was on the panel and I had my chance to talk, I'm like, that's the wrong title because you are going to stream. Like that's the end.
Inevitable.
Like that is not the optional part here.
No.
The optional part is, are you going to accept it or not accept it and go with the changes? Because it's going to happen. And that was, that's like 8 years ago or 9 years ago now.
Yeah.
That was before any of this stuff and Spotify.
The big names coming in.
Yeah. So you can't resist these things from happening. So you have to adapt to them or die. Yeah. Right? Because you're not going to sell CDs in a record store anymore, for example.
Unless you're huge.
Well, unless you're Taylor Swift, I guess, yeah. But even that, I think the sales are pretty ridiculously low. Like what it takes to become a gold record is not all that much anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or when you unfortunately go and then people buy your records afterwards, right? Just kind of like the thing with like Prince, Michael Jackson, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Exactly.
Alrighty.
All right.
Next story before we kind of head off into part 2 of our presentation. So NBC finally announced that they're partnering with Snapchat once again. Last year that they partnered with Snapchat, or last Olympics they partnered with Snapchat. But this year they're partnering again to bring 4 new daily shows for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Streaming, oh my God, I lost my train of thought. Streaming exclusively on
Producer
Snapchat.
Matt going down.
Producer Matt needs a little bit more coffee. But yeah, we dove into the article a bit and kind of reading under the surface, and more so this talks about reaching the issue with reaching the age demographic of millennials who don't have a television subscription or like a TV cable box. The Olympics is such a huge event that happens every couple of years. So how do you reach this huge demographic, and some can argue the majority of the demographic now, who don't own a television subscription? And NBC's solution is partnering with social services.
Yeah, 100%. Sashita, do you have cable?
No.
You don't have cable. Do you have cable?
I have cable. Yeah,
I have.
I gotta have my CNN and my NBC, man. I gotta have it.
Well, you can get that though.
Yeah, you can get it on the go.
Yeah,
but like I like watching it in the morning with my coffee, sitting down, kind of drill that.
I think the thing is that, so I think that the lesson here is that, like, I've got cable right now for now, but we're getting rid of it because we pay for 3 smart boxes plus the subscription plus the packages, and we literally do not watch it. So you can replace reality TV, which is what my wife watches for some unknown reason.
Yeah, I watch it too.
You watch reality TV? Bachelor, Bachelorette, Kardashians, all the things that will melt your brain into a puddly goo. That's on HeyU, right? Do you have a HeyU subscription?
Oh, no.
No? You're just watching it?
I watch a different one.
Okay. You can get HeyU, and then on YouTube, you can actually purchase the subscriptions with YouTube Premium. You can buy the cable channel packages for like $4 a month or something like that. You get all the big ones, right? So I think what this is kind of getting at is Stacy saying producer Matt is turning into Stacy.
Yes. Hannah says time of day or night is going to interfere with the streaming Olympics.
Yeah, where are they this year? Tokyo?
They're in Tokyo this year, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think anything like that's going to change.
It usually happens.
Anything.
Like they had it in Russia.
They had it in Russia, yeah.
It's
For
a struggle, but
I think what this is just a change in the and this does follow kind of what else we're talking about is it's following NBC, and the big networks are realizing that they were not cable channels. They were channels on cable devices, if that makes sense. Like, as an example, the New York Times came out, and this was years ago. I was listening to it on NPR, and it was with their editor-in-chief. Said they had an aha moment when they realized, why are we defending like paper? Yeah, we're a news organization, so when we started, it was newspapers. Now newspapers are dying, and it's the internet. So let's get on the end. That's when they built the NewYorkTimes.com as a massive digital subscription, because the world was changing how people were consuming it. So they realized, why are we defending the medium, right? We've got to go with the medium. The medium now for them, NBC, will be Snapchat. And I think the other thing with things like the Olympics, at least for me, is snackable content. Like, I don't want to. I watch bobsledding once every 4 years.
Yeah. Or if it's like a hockey game. If it's a hockey game, I'll watch the hockey game. But it's not like I'm not going to watch like an hour and a half of like.
What is it? They have like the Leafs in 15 or whatever, 30 and 30 or something like that. If they just show the highlights. That's actually how I watch a lot of hockey these days.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I skip all the boring crap and I move right to the good stuff.
I mean, it works.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that has to do with, just moving to the platforms where they can get further engagement for their advertising efforts, and understanding that a lot of Snapchat users may watch a little bit, but they want to see the highlights. Yeah. Right? You're not going to watch a whole day of, slalom. No. Some people will, but
not me.
Not me.
Cool.
Hannah says, will you watch at 2 a.m.? Like, no, I won't. But I'll watch it when I get up.
I'll watch the highlights.
I can watch the highlights. And there will be people, like in India, for example, cricket is massive. Yeah. A game I've had my Indian friends try to explain cricket to me probably about 400. My one buddy, Harsh, has tried to explain this game to me like hundreds of times in detail, and I still don't understand it, but whatever. There are people that are super fans that absolutely they'll stay up till 2 a.m. Yeah. True. I know hockey fans, right, Matt, that will stay up until 2 a.m. to watch the game live. They'll get up. Yeah. Yep. So, welcome. Kim Kennelly has joined the stream.
Hey. How's it going? Okay, so before we got to kind of speed this up because we're running out of time, but before we go into the next segment, I know, Dan, you wanted to talk about the anatomy of a good review and some 10 really good examples. Do you want to leave that for next week?
I just
Or-
will cover it really super quickly because
Okay.
this is something that is very important for marketers, big or small, our customer reviews in 2020.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what goes into creating a good review program. So we're just going to give a few highlights around what it is that you should do with customers and with your own employees. So, for example, one of the things you want to make sure that you do is create a review plan with review templates. So, for example, this is about, and this fits into what we're talking about, which is mapping a customer journey. And customer journeys used to be linear, and now they are not. So at certain kind of key moments in a customer journey, you need to be prepared to send out communications that will engage with that person to incite a review easily, right? And positively.
Yep.
So for example, if you had 1,500 people or 500 people in your customer database, what not to do is to send out a blast email to 1,500 people asking them for a review,
Yeah.
right?
Don't do it.
Don't do it that way. And the first most important reason is dissatisfied consumers are far more likely to voice strong opinions than satisfied consumers. So what you're going to do by doing that is you're going to poke everybody that may not be 100% satisfied with your service, and you could see a flood of potentially mediocre to negative reviews that you will then have to go and jump on like hand grenades.
Yep. And
Okay.
I think that definitely stands out more so for small restaurants as well. I think restaurants for sure get more negative reviews than they do positive reviews, just because if you had a great meal, you had a great meal. But if you had a really bad experience, you're going to tell someone about it, right?
Yep. Welcome, Matt Ross. Matthew saying he likes the chairs. Thanks. Matt's an actual for real broadcaster at, I think it's TSN 680
Yep.
in Montreal. He is also another unfortunate Habs fan.
Hey, what do you mean unfortunate? Go Habs go.
How's
We're on a big week right now though, so everyone's on vacation.
Anyways, I'm not going to
to
slam the Habs just because my friend Matthew Ross joined. Welcome, Matt. Sorry, the second thing is to create a cadence. So in terms of customer reviews, it's a great point, Matt, in terms of like restaurants that don't have a positive review program will likely get inundated by negative reviews because I'm not a good example because I'm building up my Google review profile, but whatever. Like April does the same thing. You get points. It's stupid.
Yeah,
you get points for doing reviews on Google, and you get like a badge.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest thing ever, but it gets competitive. It's gamified.
Yeah.
But by and large, if people have a good experience at a restaurant, they may tell their friends and say it was really great.
Oh, you should go here and stuff like that.
Yeah, but if you have a bad experience, the first thing you'd go for is the review section on Facebook or on Google
That's true.
to voice your dissatisfaction.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I think an important thing to do, and you don't have to be really super fancy about it, but an important thing to do is create a cadence and a series of steps that lead to, hey, if your serving staff is asking people if they enjoyed their meal and they say, yeah, we really did, and then give that person an easy way to submit a positive review. And there are a number of platforms that will allow you to do that. People can do it on their phones, and you can literally ask for the review at that moment. The moment is the meal is done. We had a great time. We really love it. That's the time to ask.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
If you're an e-commerce store, a few days after, survey your client. How's your satisfaction? How did everything work? For all the good ones that say this was a great experience, then follow up with it. If it's a negative experience prior to requesting the review, so customer places order, customer receives order, wait 4 days. 4 days later, I receive my order, survey that customer, say, how was your experience? If it's positive, request the review. If it's negative, resolve that to their satisfaction, hopefully, then request the review.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a cadence that you have to put together. We'll leave it at that for now, but those are some good, helpful tips for implementing a positive review program. Because if you get stuck behind the 8 ball trying to catch up, it becomes a very stressful situation. It can really hurt your business.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Alrighty, cool. Now we're getting into the meat of the live. So last week we kind of had Dan went through his presentation on kind of how digital media has kind of evolved, how people have kind of jumped on the bandwagon of digital media now.
Yeah, we can just kind of start quickly with there's really three key components that actually make any technology impactful and actually change patterns in large ways. So it's on slide 19, man.
Yep.
It's just three things. One is scale. The second one is adoption.
Yep.
Oh, and the third one is convergence.
Yep.
So we have a convergence into mobile devices that now take the place of like 30 or 40 different devices that you used to have. The scale is, can it reach people at scale? So in Canada, we have something like 94% internet mobile penetration. So people are able to connect at scale.
Yep.
And adoption is simply, is your grandmother sending you Facebook Messenger messages looking for pictures of the grandkids? That's adoption. So when we get through all of that, what we end up with, if we jump to slide, I guess, 26. Oh, yeah, that new scene is working out well.
Yeah.
It looks better, see?
Oh, yeah,
Looks clean.
It looks clean. There's a lot going on that screen, but it's good. So just to move on is what we used to have, if we're on that slide now, is there used to be a traditional funnel. There's all sorts of ways, but awareness, interest, consideration, intent, evaluation, purchase, and loyalty, right? That was a customer map that has existed for decades and decades and decades. But there's a few problems with that because, number one, it considers the customer, the consumer, an output, right? So if you have a marketing budget of $100,000 a month or $10,000 a month or $1,000 a month, by using a linear funnel, what you're assuming is a complete reset, an output of a customer. That customer is gone. And now I have to feed the machine at the beginning of every month and every quarter and every year, right? And if you think about it, that model is not a good model. Customers are not outputs. Customers are accelerants. And we'll get into the reason why. So that previous customer map that's sitting there, right, on that cartoon is when you have a controllable media distribution network. Radio, print, television, billboard, direct mail. Those are very linear media. They could control it. The analogy is does anyone, probably everybody knows this. Does anyone know, and you can throw your thoughts in the comments, what the most popular primetime finale is in the history of television?
So like 9 o'clock, isn't it? Like
well, no. What like, show?
Oh, Survivor.
Which show had the largest finale in the history of television? Okay, you got Survivor. We got to wait. I think we have to wait.
Or is it reality,
whatever delay,
or is it like just
anything?
Anything.
Oh
man.
Anyone?
Okay, maybe not Survivor.
Let's see if we get some comments. So the question is what is the world's most viewed premiere finale of a TV show at any point in television history?
Miguel says Guiding Light. Stacy says Cheers.
Scott Amos says Cheers. Hannah Trafford says MASH. We'll wait for a few more. Come on. Isn't Guiding Light still on? Is that a thing? I don't watch soaps. Isn't it one of those shows that's been on for like 100 years since radio?
I'm going to say Game of Thrones.
You're going to say Game of Thrones? All right. Anyone else? Well, Hannah has actually got it right. It was MASH.
Whoa.
Now, the reason is not because it necessarily was the most popular in history. At the time, there were only, I think, 6 channels you could watch on television in the 70s.
Makes sense.
Or when MASH finale.
Was prime, yeah.
So therefore, you had a controllable media broadcast source. What else were you going to watch at that time?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was the finale. So it captured the largest number. And like Cheers is another great example that you would logically say, yeah, maybe more people watch it, but they didn't, because at that time even there were far more television stations. I think there was 28 or something like that. I mean, CNN was around. So that's right. And it's not necessarily the best show, but there was just limited broadcast outputs you could watch. And again, the reason the old funnel worked is because like 10 years ago on Google, we could set up a performance ad and we could see direct results by a simple Google search ad, right? because even that was controllable 10 years ago, right? People weren't consuming on mobile. So let's look at what happens in 2020 because of these little monsters in our pockets. And it really is because of these little monsters in our pockets. And this is what a customer journey will look like today. Now, for a marketer and for a business, this is a highly distressing model. Let me just make it bigger so you can all see it. There we go. So as soon as that comes up, by the way, we're also on Facebook Watch right now, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
That is, I think, the first time we've been appearing there. So when we look at that, so let's look at a complex customer journey because of mobile, right? There's a whole bunch more, and you can flip over probably to the other one, Matt.
Yep.
Surprised that hasn't updated yet. When you look at how it's non-linear at this point, people are going to look at reviews. They're going to look at other like reviews, blogs. They're going to talk to friends. They're going to use, they're going to want to establish a relationship of some sort. And so as a marketer, what we have to be able to do is adapt our marketing funnel non-linearly, right? And what that means is adapting the same way that NBC is adapting to the Olympics with Snapchat. We have to adapt how we communicate to a customer in this kind of messy world. So I see that you flipped over to IKEA, and this is a really cool one because this is one of IKEA's actual nonlinear funnel maps. And you can see what they've done is they've taken everything into account. In-store is a huge thing for IKEA, obviously, but look at out-of-store. They still have catalog listed, print catalog as a part of that journey and experience. But they also have online, and they're showing all of those relationships that go from a much more in-depth, much more personalized view rather than shoving a lead into the top of the funnel and grinding them through the grinder to get them out of the bottom of the funnel.
Absolutely. I think their kitchen planner is one of those things that kind of thrives people and pushes people into the store, right? Because you have that. It's almost like a AR app that they have on their site, right? You can kind of plan it in, move furniture the way you want, put in custom dimensions.
Well, and I think this is an important part of this conversation about the non-linear customer journey and why the funnel needs to be rethought of as what is being termed the flywheel. So if we move on to the next one.
I have that up.
Okay, cool.
Hannah, start the car.
So again, we're moving from funnel to flywheel, and I think the important part here is really looking at the customers being the accelerant rather than the output. Because a happy customer will get you more happy customers. In a world of reviews and social and unlimited communication, always on communication, that changes that model more than ever. So as an example of a company that doesn't take into account this flywheel, has Rogers or Bell ever reached out to you as a loyal customer offering you a discount on your current package due to the fact that you've been such a great customer and they can save you money?
I'm going to say no.
I mean, if anybody has received a call like that, then you are a unicorn. Because the only way that you get a discount from Rogers or Bell is if you call them and you say, this is outrageous, I don't want this anymore, because they know you can only go to Bell or one of the tier 2 providers, right, that they have. So that's an example of a company that's using a linear funnel. You're a customer, your output, boom, see you later, we're off to get the next. In this funnel to flywheel model, you can see that obviously in this case, it's a CRM at the middle of it, but that's customer intelligence, where service, marketing, and sales come together, and content is created to promote and reinforce that relationship over a longer period of time. Okay. And this is key, is we can just jump to that. This is where this is where companies need to act like media companies and engaging with their customers across that non-linear funnel, using things like TikTok, using things like Snapchat, using things like review programs, because people can access that at any given time, day or night. So to think of a linear process in a non-linear world really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
For sure.
Right?
Yep.
And we got to create content not in the form of the sales pitch, because people will discover along that path they will discover the point to which they want to be sold a product.
Yeah.
I've done my research. I'm interested enough in it now. I want to buy that Haven mattress now because I've learned about all of the value props and I want this thing now. That is when the sales pitch can come in, and that's where benefit bundling and offers can happen.
Sure.
Okay. So that's, I think, a big part of, and we're going to kind of skip forward a little bit here. The last part of this that's important in 2020 is this, it's slide 34, Matt.
Okay.
We talk a lot about influencer marketing.
Yep.
You can leave it on. You can leave it. Actually, that, you know what? That scene is actually pretty good the way it is.
Oh, the presentation, the full one. Yeah, that one's actually pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
the way it fits there. Influencer marketing. A lot of people talk about influencer marketing, and I think this is. Scott Amos says, "Me too." I just get yourself a great Haven mattress. So comfortable. Anyhow, shameless plug. So many slides. April says over 270 I made for 1 week.
And he purged a lot of them too. There was a lot more in here, wasn't there?
Yeah, this one got purged.
Yeah.
It's true. So in this particular one here, you hear a lot about influencer marketing. Oh, we've got to get, and again, Brian Balmer or, Kim Kardashian, or we need some huge name like PewDiePie, or we need this person and that person that's an influencer. I think the way to rationalize influencers is because of this. An influencer is simply is simply someone who has a power to affect outcomes to an audience.
Yep.
Right? Sashita, you're an influencer. Matt, you're an influencer. I'm an influencer. I have my personal networks that I have on this device that can influence a few people, larger or smaller. On mass, on scale, all of your customers can influence a huge number of people, probably more than a single influencer can influence a whole large group of people.
For sure.
Right?
Yep.
So in this nonlinear funnel world of a flywheel and a distracted nonlinear process, creating content like a media company that does not have a sales pitch and treating everybody as if they are a legitimate influencer is the key to being successful in this world. If you don't do that, if you don't treat your customers like they're influencers, you're going to be in for a rough ride.
Yeah. Because
those people can and will have an influence on how successful you are coming out of that.
Just think about, like you said, Rogers and Bell. One of the primary reasons why people switch platforms too is because they have a friend who's like, oh, like you should go on like Bell, for example. Like I was with Rogers, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, and actually,
I think
I don't know if it was going around the office a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a restaurant. Someone put in a negative review about it, and the restaurant came out like, was it?
Oh,
we were talking about
this.
Yeah,
we were talking about it. Yeah.
The restaurant came out like it was actually funny.
Yeah.
Like it was, someone wrote it had a pretty sharp wit.
Yep.
The only problem with the meal or with the ambiance is the people that had to sit next to you. That's the restaurant talking to the people with the negative review.
Yep.
Really not a great way to kind of come out in a socially connected world.
No.
Although it may have been satisfying for a frustrated business owner or whomever that might have been, I think the long-term damage that will do is probably far worse than trying to mea culpa that person and calm them down.
That's true. Now, sometimes, I will say sometimes it can work. Like if you do have a community of people and it's generally like a troll review or something like that, and your community and your customer base know that it's you know what I mean?
I think that's a very fine line to walk, and you have to be very careful.
You have to be extremely careful.
Well, and the other thing, just to wrap it up here, the last thing with customer reviews is it's like anything. So when you do an average in statistics, if you've got a math background, you throw out the high and the low.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. To get a proper even basic average, because those can skew results. So same thing with reviews. If you have this crazy, ridiculous review, address it, because people will often dismiss a 0-star review that's a long diatribe. Just like people will dismiss the 5-star review that says this is like, it's too much, right? So you want to be somewhere in the middle, but I think you gotta really be careful with that strategy, Matt. If you've got like a great community around you, dealing with trolls and reviews is one thing, but also like kind of having a level head.
Yeah,
And
for
being
sure.
an adult in a room.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, anyhow.
Wendy's can do it. You can't.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. All right, everyone. Well, I think that's a wrap.
Yep.
For January 24th. Can you believe it? January's over next week.
You know, next live will be on
Sashita's
the 31st.
almost survived her first full winter.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Which is still a little
What is
while.
it, like 50 some more days until spring, apparently?
Something like that. But I mean, March
You know it always
March
goes
gets
something.
better and worse. Like it
It's
gets warmer, and then we'll get a storm.
All
and-
of it, yeah.
Yeah. If you can make it through February, you're solid.
You're
Yeah,
good.
then I'm an official Canadian.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it. You'll have your badge of honor. You're not
Yeah.
a rookie.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week for episode 115 of Live at the Hive.
See you then.
Bye.